Good morning, good evening, depending on which time zone you are. Uh, Welcome into Great Chair Podcast, episode 7. As you know, we talk here about books, we learn from them, we exchange, and see how they can help us improve our lives. Today is a special day because normally I talk about book about others, but for those who don't know, I also happen to publish books. In the book publishing industry, as in many other creative industry, there is what we do as collaborations, let's say music collaboration, where you can see like different artists are working on the same music. In the, let's say also in the films, you can see like different studios or production companies are putting hands together and working on one film. So also in the film industry, in the book publishing industry, we have similar thing where like different publishers can work on one book or different authors can work on one book. So today is a special day for this episode 7 because I'm bringing you a special book about a special character that is very interesting in the current world of politics. Guess who? That's none other than Mr. Trump. We're going to talk about this book. This book is called Journey in Trumplandia, The Rise of Populism in America. It was written by Tiberiu Dianu. Tiberiu Dianu, he was born in Romania. Funny that it's Romania. This is one of the things that I always talk about. We live in this world, but sometimes it really looks like a matrix. Recently here in Rwanda, there had been some Romanian mercenaries who transited here in Rwanda. It was a big deal. They were caught in DRC as mercenaries fighting in a DRC conflict for the Congolese army, and they passed in Rwanda. And so Romania, every newspaper, Romanian mercenaries. So the author of this book about Trump is from Romania. So that I just remembered this one. So he worked as a lawyer. He was also a judge, in Romania. The author of this book was a judge in Romania. He was also a senior counselor in the Ministry of Justice. He was also a professor, university professor. He was also a legal researcher. Now he's in the United States. He lives in the United States now as a legal expert for the judiciary. He works for the judiciary system in America. So he's a lawyer, everything. He taught in universities. He was a judge also himself in Romania. But now he lives in the United States. He has worked on different books and articles regarding law, politics, post-communist societies, like trying to study like different, in the 1945, 1990, many Eastern European countries and African and Asian had converted in pure communism, and somehow capitalism prevailed, and some of these countries tried to embrace capitalism afterwards. So he's written many articles and books around these topics of communism. He works now and lives in Washington, D.C. So, what can you learn about this book? This book, Journey in Trumplandia, I worked with him and different other publishers across the world. So, in collaboration in publishing, let's say what we do, you divide market. You can say we're going to work on this book, but you will have let's say the Rwandan market, or let's say the East African market. So for this book, I have the Rwandan market, but I'm also the agent for this author. We have there is what we call literary agent. It's like a commissioner, like a commissioner, brokers in the book. So basically, anyone who needs rights on this book can also contact me so that I can help facilitate the business um, of rights on this book. So I'm a literary agent also representing this author in case anyone is interested on the rights of publishing it in another market or in another country or a continent or in another language. So come talk to me. Happen to be also a literary agent for this book. So as I mentioned, this book is a collection of essays about the transformation of America, which has turned the United Nations to one more than divided than ever. So basically, it started how the genesis, how America came to be the America we've been hearing about, the Democrats, different political views, different, extremism, different things that have been happening, making news in the political scenes of America. Some pundits, like people who are very following, keen to what's happening, if things don't change, another civil war would occur. So basically, this, but I can tell you this book was written in 2016. So around 2016, that the first manuscript it was working out. So it gives us the genesis. So this phases into 2016 an election of Donald Trump, like how it got to where it was. Hopefully, America is mature enough to learn from mistakes and avoid further scars along its evolving history. So basically, he tries. So the idea of extremism, the right and the left, like how these things can polarize the country into different factions, which can erupt into civil wars. So basically, all the political people who follow like the politics were like learning or reading this book, trying to give them an emphasis. I think it's something that had been happening in many countries. Also in Rwanda recently, there was a huge, the past 5 years, like huge something that looked like it's polarizing the country into different extremisms that we didn't know that we had. And someone who had read this book beforehand, I felt also there was something that needed to change, like at least raise alarm. So to the political figures or opinion leaders to start to understand what is happening in this polarization of the country. Well, especially for a country like Rwanda, it would be we had so many lessons that would not put us in a position to afford polarization in the country. So, so this book really talked to me very much because I originally was more into kids, children literature, but it is one of the books that comes knocking, and you feel like it's very important for the people to understand what's happening in the world. Actually, some say now that Trump has won again in this 2024 elections, and he's starting to make it about America and American people and try to clean up the mess, political corruptions and everything, even if even if him also is accused of such. Because the America, the lobby is it's a different thing. Some say what we call corruption in Africa or in other countries. In America, it's called the lobby. So it's a fancy word for corruption. But let's go dive in. Let me not talk about this book so much. I tried, of course, you can see this happens to be my company logo to promote the book so that anyone who wants either rights, international rights, as I told you, I represent the author as a literary agent, can come and talk to me, but also anyone who wants like a hard copy book here in Rwanda, you can contact me or contact my company. So let's dive into the book so they see what we can learn about the journey in Trumplandia. Um, as I mentioned, it was written by Tiberiu Dianu, a researcher who was also a lawyer. He was also a judge in Romania, and he moved into US and is now a teacher at university. So it talks about the American political landscape, right? Particularly during the 2016 US presidential election. This it talks about the American society, politics, international relationship. So this book is divided into 13 chapters. The first chapter is what you can call the past and the future elections. So it analyzes the key moments in the 2016 elections. For example, the win, history win over Hillary Clinton, the role the media played in that elections, the evolution of American electoral politics. It discussed the midterm elections, when they are choosing the candidates who represent each party, the implications for future political dynamics, what it could represent for the future elections, or by 2024 this would mean it. So inside the Beltway, it focuses the second chapter. It focuses on power dynamics within Washington D.C., including the play that the Department of Justice plays, impeachment proceedings, media influences on political narratives. And the third chapter, it talks about what there is the new administration. It examines the early days of Trump administrations, his policies, leadership style, highlights the shift from traditional governance to more a populist approach. But a populist approach is more like what the people want without taking into account about the other factors. Whatever they want now, they get it. So there is also the fourth chapter about the new conservatism, how the evolution of the Republican Party from Reagan era conservatism to Trump style conservatism based on populism, the internal conflicts within the party, also the Republican Party. So I also talks about the new populism, sorry, the new liberalism. Now we just saw a new conservatism from the Republican, altered the new liberalism from the Democratic Party. So, for example, it focuses also on key figures like Hillary Clinton in the Democratic Party, Barack Obama, his progressive movements highlighting the scandals and the ideological shifts within the Democratic Party. So the chapter 6 it talks about the new American society. What is the new American society, or at least what is going to talk about? Discusses the changes in the U.S., the race relationships, feminism, you know, freedom of speech, impact of political correctness on public discourse. Basically, you can say some shit, so something, and it rings well, and it can end your political career. So basically, all these things. That was the whole chapter of 6 in this book talks about. And in chapter 7, we see now the new America's new populist nationalism. So it comes with the whole thing of patriotism symbols. America first, make America great. The cultural conflicts surrounding immigration, things, the identity politics, the America first agenda. Basically, now that Trump has now crossed the borders, no more immigrants, is now deporting a bunch of immigrants. So this whole thing, that's what the chapter 7 talks about. And in chapter 8, it talks about America and Western Europe, their relationships. what is the relationship with the Western Europe, the Brexit, the NATO. You know, Trump telling everyone to charge now 5% of their GDP contribution in the NATO, while it was 2%. Everyone doesn't like it. In the Europe, everyone trying to see maybe we should see re-examine this NATO thing. What are the transatlantic political shifts influenced by populist movements? You know now that also Elon Musk is involved. Now there is a new influence that is playing the card of make Europe great again from MAGA, make America great again. How can also they influence the Europe continent by having also this Europe fast, cut off the immigrants and everything. On one end, you understand them, but you can also see that most of these immigrants, they are the NATO countries, whatever wars they are involved in. Some of these immigrants are coming from those areas affected by those conflicts where the NATO countries are involved in. So it's a whole thing, and but it gives you an insight. As I told you, he's a researcher, he's a legal expert, he has been a judge in Romania, even if now he teaches in and lives in the United States in Washington D.C. So now let's go on the chapter 9, America and Eastern Europe. Eastern Europe countries now that Putin is not happy with for joining NATO and the whole thing. For example, he talks about how America is influencing Romanian politics, because you remember Dianu's background is from Romania, and he has lived and worked there as a judge. So he talks about the nationalism and the post-communist transitions that happened there, and the America's influence there. So in chapter 10, he talks about the America and the world, and it covers the U.S. foreign policy, including relationships with global powers, versus China, Russia, Israel, Trump's policies, and also how they reshaped the international diplomacy. For example, as you know now, he has cut off like U.S. side, and he's like auditing the whole U.S. side. Like the whole U.S. side is on hold for the next 90 days, 3 months. This some of the things that Trump is doing, but he gives you a background because this book came out before 2024. So the interviews about the new America in chapter 11 is talking about, it features interviews with American and international figures who discuss the political, social, cultural shift in the US post 2016. Since 2016, what changed in America and the whole thing now? For example, now, with Canada, America just put tariffs 25% to all products from Canada, including also China, with this whole thing that affected also the business and the trade. So in chapter 12, it's all about the interview of a new American strategic partnerships, dialogue with diplomats, policymakers, thought leaders revolving around the U.S. alliance, strategic interests, as I mentioned, it complemented to the chapter 12. So chapter 13, same interviews, America's challenges now. What are the contemporary challenges, including cybersecurity? You heard about hacks, immigration. Now recently heard about drones of special programs accused that it may be China spy drones and stuff like that invading Florida at other coast. These things, like, what are they going to influence the policies within America or global? So the main themes in this book, as I mentioned, is populism, as you can see in the subtitle of this title. So populism and establishment. So Dianu, the author, examines how Trump's rise disrupted the traditional political structure. Media critique, now all medias are now labeled as fake news agencies. All the CNN is now fake news. Anything that is not traditional conservative media like Fox News is now like the New Times now. You remember now, I recently read that Is it New York Times now has been booted out of Pentagon? You know, most these big government agency they have like newsroom, like so that they are now they have been replaced by conservative newsroom. So the global comparison also draws parallels between U.S. politics and global trends, especially in Europe, cultural polarization, how political divides reflect deeper society fraction. Basically, no sugarcoating things like this approach. The book offers a provocative, at times controversial analysis of modern America framed through Dianu's lens as both insider and outsider of US politics. So basically, the author really deep in the because he's in lives in Washington D.C., where many politicians are. So he is like almost the last three chapters is about different interviews with different people from different institutions to do with politics, diplomats, political researchers, and the strategists. This is a good book, I think, for the people who are interested about politics. Even if it got out after the 2016 in the first term of Trump before the Democrats won again. But this one, it really like it can also give you an insight on on who Trump is, on how at least you can approach even some of these things that he's implementing now. There are the things that they were already some of these on his agenda in the 21st term that he couldn't be able to put in effect in the 2020 in the second because he didn't win the second term. So this is a very beautiful book for the people who want to understand the America now, what is happening now. I wish everyone who likes to understand America to try it. So thank you very much for working with us.